Good evening. You're watching the news tonight, your daily roundup of all that has happened across India and the world. I'm Ishan Russell, and tonight our focus is on Prime Minister Narendra Modi's visit to the United States, which kicks off really soon. So that visit, of course, would be a focus point for us, and we'd be having a special guest for that as well. But first, the headlines that we're tracking right now. After a massive public outcry, the government backtracks, withdraws a draft document on national encryption policy. Ahead of Prime Minister's visit to the US, Cabinet clears multi-billion-dollar deal for 22 Apache attack helicopters and 15 Chinook choppers with Boeing. The Sensex registers the third biggest fall of the month, loses 550 points amid steep losses in Europe and lingering growth concerns. And the third front, led by Samajwadi Party, holds a rally in Patna. Uttar Pradesh Chief Minister Akhilesh Yadav lashes out at the centre for making false promises. Well, our top story this evening, the government has withdrawn its draft encryption policy after much public outcry. Telecom Minister Ravi Shankar Prasad clarified that it was just a draft policy and not a policy decision. A fresh draft will be issued soon. Now, the original proposal said that apps and platforms will have to either register the encryption service they use with the government or sign up to use government-approved services only.
After a very public uproar, the government has taken a step back. Just hours after announcing a draft encryption policy, the government has withdrawn it.
Yesterday, it was brought to my notice that the draft has been put in public domain seeking comments. I wish to make it very clear that that is just a draft, not the view of the government. But I have noted some of the concerns expressed by certain enlightened segment of the public.
The original draft stated that every message a user sends, whether it was through WhatsApp, SMS, email or other social media apps, must be mandatorily stored in plain text format for 90 days. The draft also said that these must be made available on demand to security agencies.
The right of articulation and freedom we fully respect. At the same time, we need to acknowledge that the cyberspace transaction is rising enormously. For individual, for businesses, for government, for company to company.
The clarification that's come from the ministry is a step in the right direction. It's a recognition of the fact that there were some intrinsic problems in the draft encryption policy, and that's why the proposed exemptions have been granted. But while the exemptions have been so granted, the intrinsic problems in the draft policy still remain.
If you have encrypted data, which is secure, which is protected in a way that hackers cannot hack it, you have to store a plain text copy so that if the security agencies want to access it, they can ask you for it and access it. The problem with that is that because you are storing a plain text copy, you are actually less secure.
All modern messaging services, including WhatsApp, Viber, Line, Google Chat, Yahoo Messenger and others, come with a high level of encryption which security agencies find hard to intercept. The draft policy proposed to bring these under its purview. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Ahead of Prime Minister Narendra Modi's visit to the United States, the cabinet cleared the decks for a multi-billion-dollar deal for 22 Apache attack helicopters and 15 Chinook choppers with US aviation giant Boeing. Now, the deal is the first big military contract for the United States since the Modi government took office. But there's a lot more riding on the Prime Minister's second visit to US within a year.
Soon after the first India-US strategic and commercial dialogue, Prime Minister Narendra Modi will begin his second visit to the US. Apart from attending the UN General Assembly session in New York, Modi will meet US investors and President Barack Obama and also visit the West Coast known for its famous startups. US seeks to strengthen economic ties with India, hoping it would transform into a global powerhouse soon.
We've seen recently a major report put out by the Peterson Institute that talks about what is at stake for India and how much India can grow and benefit through trade liberalization.
I think the U.S. is expecting India to play a stronger role, especially in the Asia-Pacific region. That's our area of focus.
The relationship between U.S. and India is full of hope and opportunity. I see us having a lot of partnerships in the future, both around our economies, around creating a stable Asia, and also in science.
Modi will host a summit of G4 leaders in New York, where the main agenda will be the United Nations Security Council reforms. The US has acknowledged that it has disagreement with India over the process of the reforms. However, it is committed to India's inclusion as a permanent member.
Well, you know, the president has reiterated on multiple occasions that the United States welcomes and supports India's entry into a reformed Security Council, and we stand behind the president's words.
Willingly or unwillingly, this year UN has to undertake the Security Council reform on its major agenda. And in this way, this is one of the most important visits of Prime Minister Narendra Modi to USA, because India will have to do comprehensive lobbying among the member nations of the UN. Akhilesh Suman for Rajya Television in Delhi.
And at the first ever Indo-US Strategic and Commercial Dialogue, External Affairs Minister Sushma Swaraj said that the India growth story has immense potential for Americans and businesses. India showed full support to the US to help boost commerce and trade ties. America, on its part, asked India to speed up its reform process to facilitate the ease of doing business.
The Indian delegation, led by External Affairs Minister Sushma Swaraj, sought investments from the US industry in both public and private sectors. Addressing the inaugural US-India Strategic and Commercial Dialogue, Swaraj said the two sides were also strengthening mutual cooperation in areas like defense and security, clean energy and environment. She listed out a number of initiatives taken up by the center where US can invest and help develop infrastructure. Key projects like the smart cities and cleaning up of Ganga feature among them.
This dialogue provides us the opportunity to assess where we stand in terms of the goals that we had set for ourselves and set new targets and objectives for the future. It is also important that we give ourselves timelines to achieve the targets. We should also be in a position to present to our leaders a clear vision of the road ahead.
US chose to equate diplomacy with economic policies, vowing to cooperate with India in key areas. However, US Vice President said that India needs to speed up the pace of economic reforms with special emphasis on ease of doing business.
In today's era, foreign policy is economic policy and economic policy is foreign policy. They are two sides of the same coin. And so I hope that we're going to take full advantage of the chance that this dialogue affords us to expand our bilateral cooperation.
There's no reason why we can't multiply, as the doctor pointed out, our overall trade and exports to India and our investments in India by a factor of 5 or more over the next decade. But we need to see more reforms, quite frankly. As I said to President Modi, Prime Minister Modi, and his predecessor.
India is committed to reform, but we always calibrate reform with the ground reality. I'm sure the Modi government to bring about change for ease of business, to bring about change to make the lives of the people better, for energy access, affordable housing. All of these are also a part of reform.
US also sought greater cooperation on the issue of climate change. Biden hopes it would unleash a new era of economic growth in the two largest democracies of the world. Kerry expressed support for Modi's plan to help Indian economy become more reliant on renewable sources of power. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
And we're joined by former diplomat Ashok Sajanaj to help us understand, Ashok sir, as far as Indo-US ties go. Now, we know that commerce and trade certainly has started to dominate and the economic ties have certainly taken over. But given the fact that what is being said, that the US is saying that the pace of reform needs to be hastened over here, it's a changed relationship, an evolving relationship. How different is it from what happened last year?
Well, I think this visit of the Prime Minister will build on the ground that has been covered last year during his visit and also during the visit of President Obama to India. when he was the chief guest at our Republic Day celebrations. So it is basically in terms of, I think there is recognition also in India that ease of doing business needs to be improved, because we stand at about 142 out of 189 countries in terms of ease of doing business. And last year itself, many of the reforms that have been put in position, they are all in the direction that when we are inviting more capital, more investment, more technology in all the major programs of the government, whether it is Skill India or Digital India or Smart Cities or Clean Up Ganga, I think we really need to do work at home also. I think this is recognition definitely within the government and of the Prime Minister. But I think when he goes there, when he visits the West Coast, when he has discussions with business, with startup, with technology-intensive companies, it is basically to attract them to come to India so that they partner with India in taking our programs and initiatives forward.
All right, certainly the economic ties will receive an impetus, but as far as India in the Indo-US strategic alliance goes, that seems to be assuming newer dimensions. The cabinet today cleared, very importantly, that big defense deal as far as those helicopters from Boeing is concerned for defense purposes, and even in terms of how India is being placed strategically as a counter to China by the Americans. How do you make this relationship going forward from here?
No, absolutely. I think the Americans will not say it in so many words, although they might expect that India will play a more proactive role as far as evolution of China as a responsible member of the international community is concerned. And we also need to leverage our our expanding links and partnership with the United States to ensure that we have a balanced relationship with China. You would observe that when President Obama had come here, then a separate vision document for relations, for peace and stability in the Asia-Pacific, and particularly as far as maritime security in the Asia-Pacific region is concerned, was agreed upon, was signed. So India is definitely looking at a more proactive role in terms of protecting and promoting its interests. Because in South China Sea, that is where the focus of that particular document was. There are significant interests that India has in terms of what we are collaborating with Vietnam in prospecting oil in some of the oil blocks there. And of course, to promote maritime security, because more than 40% of our commerce and trade passes through those seas.
All right, one final question. As far as the UNSC seat is concerned, now it was a major diplomatic win for India, given what happened in the United Nations, that entire resolution. So do we build on that? Because the UN is also, of course, the External Affairs Minister would be addressing the UNGA, not the Prime Minister this time around. But the Prime Minister going over there would certainly mean an impetus to that as well.
No, absolutely. On the 25th of September, when he addresses the UN Sustainable Development Summit, the Prime Minister is also having a meeting of G4 countries. And there the basic agenda is going to be UN Security Council expansion and reforms. And that will definitely get a fillip. I think this is as you've said, it is a very significant decision that has been taken by the United Nations to have a text-based negotiations in the forthcoming 70th session of the UN General Assembly. But still, there is a lot of work. I don't think we need to start congratulating ourselves or start patting our backs just yet, because the road ahead is difficult, it's very tortuous, it's very thorny. But I think we need to take hope and we need to take confidence and press ahead with our coalition, continue to expand our coalition of partners, whether it is with developing countries, because whether it is the L69 or the Arab group or the Nordics group or even France, as a member of the UN Security Council, all of them have supported this development to reform and to expand the UN Security Council. So we need to continue on this path.
All right, so we'll have to wait and watch how this visit develops, but certainly one that is very important. Ashok Shahjahan, thank you very much for coming in and helping us understand and put this into perspective for us. Well, moving on now onto the stock markets, where shares fell by more than 2% today, tracking a steep fall in European equities. Today's loss in the Sensex is the biggest, in fact, the third biggest fall so far this month. The Sensex shed all its gains to trade 500 points down. The Nifty 2 tanked over 150 points. According to experts, the huge sell-off today was triggered by developments in Europe, where stocks in Britain, France and Germany slumped between 2 to 3%. European shares have also been weighed down by the crash in Volkswagen, which fell nearly 20% today. The German auto giant admitted that its diesel cars sold worldwide are equipped with devices that can cheat pollution tests.
A huge selling pressure in the markets. The reason being that currently we are not going through some good times as far as markets are concerned. The volatility of the market is very high, and there are various reasons moving around in the market. Chinese numbers again today have come out which are not so good. So in all, there are various factors, but the fact is that sentiment is very weak.
Now, Indian markets were also impacted by the European markets, and again the F&O settlement is quite close. So in India, investors perhaps don't want to take risk by buying very closer to the last day of the settlement. Indian corporates also have not been performing too well.
Well, time now for us to take a very quick break, but we'll be back with a lot more. On the other side, we'll be talking about UP Chief Minister Akhilesh Yadav, who addressed a joint function of the workers of the Third Front in Patna today. What did he say? On all that on the other side.
The splendid cultural heritage of Mysuru, amid the grand architecture and royal pageantry, the brilliance of the Mysore University. Has University of Mysore turned 100? Watch our special report on this treasured institution, only on Rajya Sabha television.
Welcome back. You're watching the news tonight. Some political news now, and with the battle for Bihar heating up, the Third Front, led by the Samajwadi Party, held a rally in Patna today. Uttar Pradesh Chief Minister Akhilesh Yadav lashed out at the state government and the BJP for making false promises. This was the first visit by any SP leader to the poll-bound state.
Uttar Pradesh Chief Minister Akhilesh Yadav was in Patna today, where he addressed a joint function of workers of the Samajwadi Party, the NCP and other parties. The alliance is being touted as the Third Front.
नेताजी का धन्यवाद दूंगा, कैमरा नेताजी का भी धन्यवाद दूंगा कि उन्होंने कम से कम एक मंच पे लाने का काम किया है। सवाल ये नहीं है कि गठबंधन क्या है, महागठबंधन किसका है, लेकिन अगर पांचों उंगलियों को एक साथ जोड़ने का काम नेताजी ने किया तो बहुत बड़ा काम हुआ।
After his party exited the Nitish Lalu-led Grand Alliance over seat sharing, this was the first visit by any Samajwadi Party leader to the poll-bound state.
बहुत बड़े-बड़े सपने दिखाए गए, मैंने सुना कि बहुत बड़े सपने दिखाए गए, और ऐसे सपने, ऐसे अच्छे दिनों के सपने जिसकी कोई कल्पना नहीं कर सकता, क्योंकि जमाना बदला है, मार्केटिंग और ब्रांडिंग का जमाना है। कोई कंपनी तय कर देती कि अच्छे दिन ऐसे आ सकते हैं, तो तय कर लिया उन्होंने कि अच्छे दिन ऐसे आएंगे। वो उस पार्टी का नारा नहीं था, वो ब्रांडिंग और मार्केटिंग वाली कंपनी का नारा था।
Samajwadi Party had teamed up with 5 parties to contest as Third Front in the upcoming assembly polls. The alliance worked out a seat-sharing pact last week with SP contesting on 85 seats. NCP will contest on 40 seats, whereas Papu Yadav's outfit JAM will fight 64 constituencies.
चुनाव लड़ने दीजिए, जनता का आशीर्वाद लेने दीजिए, जनता हम लोग को आशीर्वाद करेंगे बैठ के हम लोग 1 मिनट में हम लोग का लीडर ठीक कर देंगे।
जिस उद्देश्य के लिए गठबंधन बना है उस उद्देश्य की प्राप्ति हम कर सके। एक मजबूत तीसरा विकल्प बिहार की जनता को हम देंगे और आने वाले समय में आप इस बात को महसूस करेंगे कि जो हम लोग वादा करेंगे, जो हमारा चाहे वो घोषणा पत्र हो या विजन पेपर हो, उस पेपर को लेकर जो हम जाएंगे उसको हम लोग पूरा करेंगे। अगर बिहार की जनता ने हम पर विश्वास किया, हमको आशीर्वाद दिया, तो हम उसको पूरा करेंगे।
Among the smaller alliance partners, SSP, headed by former Union Minister Nagmani, has been allotted 28 seats. Former Lok Sabha MP DP Yadav's newly floated electoral outfit, SJDD, is allotted 23 constituencies to contest, and the remaining 3 seats are left for former Parliament Speaker P.S. Sangma's NPP. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Now, the Election Commission has sent a notice to the BJP asking its president to explain the remarks of one of its leaders. The Commission was referring to the remark of BJP's West Bengal leader Joy Banerjee, who said at a public meeting in Birbhum that the Election Commission was under the party's control. In a letter to Shah, the Commission has referred to the remarks made on the 20th of September. The panel has also referred to Banerjee's remarks on the security arrangements for the assembly polls in West Bengal next year. The BJP is to file a reply by the 25th of September. In the letter, the Commission says it considers Banerjee's statement amounting to denigrating the integrity of the Election Commission, as the statement can distort public perception about the neutrality, autonomy and independence of the Commission. Time now to get you some more national news and updates in Nationwide. Home Minister Rajnath Singh left Leh by road to visit the line of actual control on the India-China border today. Besides some Home Ministry and district officials, Rajnath Singh was accompanied by the Director General of the ITBP, Krishna Chaudhary. The Home Minister arrived in Jammu on Monday on a 3-day visit to the international border and the LAC in Jammu and Kashmir. BSP Supremo Mayawati today targeted the BJP-led government over the CBI's decision to question her on the multi-crore NRHM scam. She claims she had no connection with it and that the centre was misusing the agency ahead of the Bihar elections for political gains. Meanwhile, CBI Director Anil Sinha said that the agency will proceed as per requirement in the NRHM's case, and the CBI had called Mayawati yesterday for examination. The Haryana government has agreed to postpone the ongoing Panchayat elections until the Supreme Court decides the validity of the educational qualifications of the students. The Election Commission will come out with fresh election notification only after the Apex Court takes a decision on the petition on the matter. The final hearing is on the 7th of October. Time for us to take another short break. On the other side, European leaders to meet as migrants line up on the borders. More on the migrant crisis on the other side.
Get live Rajya Sabha session. News, views, reports and analysis you can trust on social media. Subscribe, follow, like Rajya Sabha Television.
Welcome back. You're watching the news tonight. Some international news now, and a day after Alexis Tsipras was sworn in as the Greek Prime Minister, the European Union said that the country should now focus on economic reforms. Tsipras met a Greek president ahead of forming the coalition, and he assured that the new government will focus on discussions with international lenders for debt relief.
Alexis Tsipras taking oath as the Greek Prime Minister, breaking from the common practice of doing it in the presence of religious leaders. He pledged to pull out Greece from its debt crisis.
Λίγες μέρες, ένα μήνα σχεδόν, στο μέγαρο το πρωθυπουργικό, το μέγαρο Μαξίμου, έχοντας την ανάμνηση μιας δύσκολης εποχής πίσω μου, μιας σκληρής διαπραγμάτευσης.
European Union leaders said Cyprus now has a mandate to carry out the reforms the country agreed with its international creditors in July.
It was under the leadership of Alexis Tsipras that Greece already committed to an ambitious program of reforms. The new government will now have the mandate to carry out these reforms. As in the past, the Commission and President Juncker stand ready to help.
The Greek Prime Minister also consulted the right-wing nationalist independent Greeks with whom a coalition government will be formed, besides meeting former ministers to discuss cabinet positions. Apart from the debt talks and an €86 billion commitment, Cyprus has one more task at hand. He will attend his first international summit on Wednesday in Brussels to discuss the migrant crisis, in which Greece plays a central role. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Now, European Union ministers have voted for a deal to relocate 120,000 migrants across the continent. The decision was taken during a meeting in Brussels today. Under the new plan, migrants will be moved from Italy, Greece and Hungary to other countries in the EU. Even though 4 European countries voted against the mandatory quotas, a large majority backed the relocation plan. It will take effect over the next 2 years. Time now to take a look at all the other international news stories and global buzz. Nepal continues to reel under violence as clashes between police and youth escalated over the adoption of a new constitution. Residents of Biratnagar district took to the streets pelting stones on police personnel. Police used tear gas to control the crowd. China is investigating an American woman on spying charges. Chinese authorities are holding Sandy Fan Gillis from Texas for about 6 months. Family released a statement claiming that she was suspected of stealing state secrets. Burkina Faso army troops entered the capital without resistance and are negotiating the surrender of coup leaders. Both the interim president and prime minister were freed, even as the coup leader, General Gilbert, said that the security situation in the country could lead to chaos and civil war. Unidentified gunmen kidnapped 2 Canadian tourists, including a Norwegian resort manager and a Filipino woman from a popular resort island in Philippines. Philippines Army captain said that the 4 were taken at gunpoint during a raid late night on the Ocean View Resort on the Samal Island. At least 5 people were killed in a car bomb blast close to the presidential palace in Somalia's capital, Mogadishu. There was no immediate claim of responsibility from the Islamist group Al-Shabaab. The group stepped up attacks this month, retaking a town in the central region and attacking African Union troops. Well, time now for all the sports action in Sports Beat. India's under-16 football team qualified for the 2016 AFC Championship after they finished as one of the 4 best runners-up of the group stages in qualifiers. India are the host of the 2016 AFC Championships, but the team defeated higher-ranked nations Bahrain and Lebanon to enter the main round of the competition on merit itself. India have been seeded number 1 in the Davis Cup Group 1 Asia-Oceania zone despite losing a World Group playoff against the Czech Republic. The tournament is scheduled to be held in March next year. Uzbekistan have been seeded 2nd in the zone and the 2 countries will get first-round byes. The other teams in the China, South Korea, New Zealand and Pakistan. Unknown assailants shot dead a national-level shooter, Sippy Sidhu, in Chandigarh on Monday night. His body was recovered from a park with bullet injuries. Police suspect it was a case of contract killing, ruling out robbery as the motive. Sidhu had been on the shooting circuit for more than 15 years and had won the team gold along with Abhinav Bindra in the Punjab National Games in 2001. Well, that's news tonight. Good night.